Hello and welcome to another edition of For the Record. I'm Sean Murphy. My guest today is John Balduck. He's the CEO of Eastern Connecticut Association of Realtors. He is a first-timer on the show. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you for having me.
We're going to allow for any coughs that may occur because of this cold that you can't seem to shake. So thank you for being here and playing in pain today. So we are obviously going to talk about some real estate today and realtors in general.
Sure.
Where are, I know we're going to concentrate on Eastern Connecticut, but just in general, the real estate market, where are we today from your point of view?
Well, it's kind of interesting to talk about real estate markets because you probably remember Tip O'Neill.
Yes.
He said that all politics is local, and real estate's the same way, believe it or not.
So it's
Eastern Connecticut's different than the whole state of Connecticut is different than the country.
Right.
If I gave you a weather forecast that said it's going to be 12 degrees and snow flurries for the country, would that mean anything to you?
Right. It would mean nothing to me. I care about...
You just care about where you are.
Where you are. But back in the recession of '08 when it started, was it the housing market that started it all? Was that the first indicator?
Absolutely was the housing market. I don't know if you've seen the movie, what's the name of it, Short. It was about the crash in Wall Street, causing the crash with the subprime loans and so
with
forth.
the Lehman Brothers and all that stuff.
Yep. And that's when it all began, and we're still struggling our way back.
So even though we may be out of the recession, the housing market itself may not necessarily be where it was when it all started.
Well, again, it depends where you are in the country.
Right. Well, so then let's talk about Eastern Connecticut. Where do we stand?
We're still having some difficulties. The numbers of sales are improving. For example, last year versus the year before, the number of sales went up about 10%, but values were basically flat. The average price was down a little, the median price was up slightly, and I expect that to continue for another year.
So when you say difficulties, wherever the market is, doesn't that mean that it's either a buyer's market or a seller's market? Wherever it is, it's got to be advantageous or beneficial for somebody, right?
Right now, it's probably closer to being a buyer's market.
Okay. And when the market was down, it was definitely a buyer's market,
Correct.
Right? You could buy a house for a steal almost, right?
Yep.
And that was the time. Did it make sense for people to take advantage? And did they in this area take advantage of it?
They did, and I think that's why the numbers of sales are improving. You can't beat the interest rates. They're at historic lows. There's a product out there, although we're seeing a shortage in the low end, which would be under 200,000.
Do those houses exist around here?
There's a couple of months' supply, and we'd like to see a 6-month supply of houses to have a healthy market.
Right. Gotcha. All right, let's talk about you a little bit because real estate is in your blood. Because long before you were the CEO of the Eastern Connecticut Association of Realtors, we talked about you being the president of an association up in Springfield, Mass. So you've been doing this for a while. So how far back do you want to go?
Well, I began real estate in 1974.
Wow. Things were different then.
Which is a long 42 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
You've probably seen a lot of changes between then and now.
Back then we had little pieces of paper that was the MLS listings. Every Friday night I'd go home and I'd take the old ones out, put the new ones in, and handwrite the price changes. And then we went to computers, and now we're on the internet. Huge changes.
Well, for a buyer and a seller, it makes it a lot easier to find what you're looking for or get your house out there for as many people as want to look at it, see it with the internet now, right?
Yep.
Yeah, websites are all about it, but it's still, at some point, you're going to need to go to the house and take the walk and learn everything you need to know about it. That hasn't changed, right?
No. In fact, you probably need a realtor now more than ever.
Why?
Because the transaction has become so complex.
Why?
Well, lots of regulation. When the crash happened in 2008, Congress passed the Dodd-Frank Act, which created a group called the Financial Protection Bureau. And they've imposed regulations on lenders and even on what realtors have to do to get the transaction closed. So it's become a lot more complex.
But that's why you're there to help in any way you can, right?
Exactly.
Can you just go back briefly from your point of view and talk about, like we mentioned, the whole Lehman Brothers things, people, banks buying bad mortgages and just things that, can you explain it in layman's terms for people to understand?
Well, what happened way back then was that Wall Street began packaging mortgages. And traditionally before that, they used to package A or AAA mortgages.
A rating, right?
A rating, right. And then they began packaging Bs and Cs along with the As.
So they were willing to take those more risky mortgages,
but
right?
the rating bureaus called the whole package an A, even though it could be 75% B or C. And so when people that got loans that were no documentation loans, had no income, the lenders were just writing the loans because they knew they could get them approved because they were going to be sold and put in these A-rated packages.
And then at the same time, though, not caring if somebody defaulted on a loan or a mortgage or something like that?
They didn't care.
Yeah.
And so when they began defaulting, then the whole package goes into default. And that puts a lot of pressure on the banks that are Wall Street. So that's why Lehman Brothers and all the others failed.
So it was a house of cards, basically.
Absolutely.
But have we learned from our mistakes now?
We have, and Dodd-Frank took care of that. But what happened initially after the crash was that the lenders were too tight, and you had to have virtually perfect credit. And now that's easing off a little bit. There were other factors. FHA tightened up on condominium sales. There were restrictions there that were unreasonable. Those have been eased off. So lots of things have changed to loosen it. So that's why we're seeing an improvement in the number of sales.
So it may have been a buyer's market, but it was almost impossible to maybe get approved because of the strictness.
Correct.
It was like a self-defeating situation going on there.
That's right.
Wow. But we're coming out of it, like you said.
Yeah, well, we still have a way to go, though, because there's still a lot of foreclosures out there. And typically what happens with a foreclosure is the people leave the property. This time of year, the pipes freeze.
Oh, boy. So that means repairs.
They're huge repairs, and obviously there's a big decline in value. So that's why I anticipate that values aren't going to go up. They're going to stay flat for the next year or so until we get rid of those foreclosures.
What about interest rates? Have they stayed pretty much steady for a while now?
They've been sort of bouncing up and down, and the Fed, as you know, has raised the discount rate, but that hasn't seemed to have an effect on the mortgage rates yet. But probably next year it will push things up a little bit.
Does a realtor have an opinion on the type of mortgage that an individual would decide to utilize, whether it be like a, you know all the buzz terms, fixed rate versus adjustable and things like that? Do you get involved in that at all? Obviously, a realtor wants to sell the house and make their commission, so I'm sure they have some input or some advice at least about that, right?
Well, what realtors tend to do is they try to recommend what's good for the party, okay? If they're a transfer coming in that's going to be here for 3 years, maybe they're going to say the best way for you to go would be an adjustable rate mortgage. If they're coming to retire and they're going to be here a long time, maybe they're going to suggest a fixed rate. But what typically happens is the realtor will recommend that the buyer get pre-approved for a loan so that when they go and find a house, they'll have a pre-approval in place and the seller will be more confident that they'll be able to purchase the home.
Would somebody really retire here knowing that we have like -degree temperatures in the winter? I mean, come on,
Connecticut's a great place to live.
It is, but
it really is.
It's a little expensive, right?
Very expensive.
And that's reflected in house prices, I would imagine.
There's an old saying that the real estate market, the population, and jobs are inextricably connected.
Right.
You affect one, you affect the other two, okay? We have a state legislature that doesn't understand that we need to promote business
Yeah.
in the state of Connecticut.
And in fact, we might be in situations where businesses are leaving Connecticut.
Well,
Yeah.
GE,
Yep.
there's others.
Yeah.
So that needs to be corrected.
Do you get involved, or do you have an interest in state politics in regards to this? Because like you said, promoting business helps the state, helps people, businesses, helps people want to move into the state, live in the state, which means they'll buy houses.
Absolutely. There's 3 levels to the organization. There's the local state association of realtors and the national. And we're involved on all 3 levels politically. At the state association, we have Realtors Day at the Capitol. It's in April. We'll be there, I think it's on April 6th, working with the state legislatures on our issues. When you think about it, there is no advocacy organization for homeowners.
Yeah.
We take that place.
Right.
So we want to protect private property rights. We want the state to have a good economy, because without the good economy, there won't be jobs and the housing market gets affected.
When you talked about foreclosures, probably a main reason for that would be someone lost their job or the jobs weren't available.
Yep.
And the thing is, banks don't want to own homes. They don't want to own it because of foreclosure. They want to sell it. They just want to be the one who works the deal financially.
What happens, though, is that once they foreclose, they have a tendency to sit on the homes and sort of piecemeal auction them off, because it's better for their balance sheet to do it piecemeal. The process of foreclosure in Connecticut's pretty lengthy, takes way too long. I mean,
A lot of red tape there. Yeah.
we're called the judicial form of foreclosure. It's not what other states have is strict foreclosure. So California, for example, has strict foreclosure. They were done it was all the foreclosures were gone within a year. And that was like 4 years ago.
Wow.
So they have a healthy market. They're getting double-digit inflation now. They have coming soon listings, which are kind of listings that are somewhat hidden. Not true in Connecticut.
Right.
So the type of foreclosure we have has been part of the reason it's taking so long to get the inventory cleared out.
Also, they have a tendency, from what I've heard, is like maybe one offer will come in, but they'll stick to their guns if the offer doesn't. If it has to approach somewhat a reasonable amount, but if that's the only person offering, wouldn't you want to sell it to them, to the one person who's making the offer?
If I were the bank, I'd want to go on to the next. Yes.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. Well, this is a good opportunity for us to take a break. The Eastern Connecticut Association of Realtors, what's the website for people to go and learn more?
It's easternctrealtors.com.
All right.
And we're on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram.
Oh, man,
as well.
you're on all the social media. You got to be there because that's where the people are.
That's right.
John Baldock, he's the Chief Executive Officer, the CEO of the Eastern Connecticut Association of Realtors. We will take a short break and come right back. I'm Sean Murphy. This is For the Record. Welcome back to For the Record. I'm Sean Murphy. John Baldock, he's the CEO of the Eastern Connecticut Association of Realtors. He joined us on the show today. When we went to the break, we mentioned the website. What's on the website for people to see? Because I'm sure it's very comprehensive.
Actually, we have over 600 pages on our website.
Wow.
Probably half of it's for the members. The other half is for for the public. Lots of stuff. Did you know that there's 181 steps to selling a home?
Oh, that's a lot. That's a lot.
Very
Is that a
complex.
Connecticut thing?
No, it's
No?
nationwide.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty much
181
nationwide.
steps. I'm sure there's a lot of little things on there that people wouldn't even think of that would fall through the cracks, but it's something you have to do.
Yeah, if you go to the website, there's 4 main parts to it: learn, buy, sell, and join. Okay. The learn page has lots of great stuff. There's videos on buying homes, video on selling homes, lots of good advice on why you should use a realtor for both sellers and buyers. Lots of good stuff. There's even a link to House Logic, which is an NAR, a National Association of Realtors website on tips on how to maintain your home or even buy a home, what credit reports are all about. You can also, there's a link to our blog, which is ecarvoice.com, which offers advice to home buyers and sellers. But the main reason you want to use a realtor is because only realtors subscribe to a code of ethics. Individuals are licensed by the state, and you have to be licensed as a salesperson or a broker to become a realtor. So when you become a realtor, you're a member of the National Association, State Association, and the local. And we have a professional standards enforcement process that makes people pay attention to the code and behave in an ethical manner.
You won't be stuck buying a lemon, basically, like they say in the car business, right?
That's right.
Yeah. What is the difference between an agent and a broker?
Okay, the state licenses two types of people: salespeople who work for a broker,
Okay.
and brokers who run the office, or they can work for a broker as well. But every office has a broker. In our membership, the broker becomes what's called the designated realtor.
Okay. Did you start out that way? Did you work your way up doing all that stuff?
Well, in 1974, when I started, I was a salesperson.
That's not the same thing as being a real estate agent, right?
And then I joined a office that was in the realtor organization. So I became then what was called a realtor associate. At that point in time, only brokers could be active members of the board and vote. So I said, well, I want to be able to vote. So I got my broker's license, which is a whole separate process from getting a salesperson's license, and became a realtor.
Nice. Well,
And then I was part-time to begin, went full-time. I managed another office, and then I went into partnership with someone and owned my own office. So I've been there and done that.
right. And now you're in the situation where you're a part of an organization that deals with many different realtors, and it's it's an advocate group for realtors in general, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
We have about 900 members in Wyndham. Basically, it's Wyndham and New London counties. The state association has around 16,000 members, and the National Association has over 1 million members, and we're involved in all three organizations.
What are the day-to-day duties of a CEO of this organization? Meaning
Wow.
you. We could probably do a whole show on just that, right?
We could. Professional standards enforcement is a big part of it. Answering calls from the public, and not necessarily ethics complaints, but just questions that they have, questions from members.
What are people calling about?
Deposits is a big one.
Is that right?
When a
Yeah.
sale falls apart,
Yeah.
how come I'm not getting my
You lose it.
deposit back? In some cases, it's returned to the buyer. It depends on the situation. But the interesting thing is that we have to comply. Realtors have to comply with the law, and there is a law that says if a deposit is returned, there has to be a written authorization to return the money to whichever party is getting it. And usually the delay is in getting the paperwork signed.
So back in '74, when you started, you were a salesman, then moved into real estate. I don't know if it was the way it is now, but you can go to real estate school now, right?
Yep.
And you actually have one of those. But talk about that.
Okay, to be licensed by the state, you have to pass a state test to get your license. And you have to take a course by an approved school to do that. It's a 120-hour course. ECAR does offer that course for salespeople, and it's right at our facility in North Franklin on Route 32. So it basically is 12 weeks long. There's 12 sessions to it.
Intense training.
Yeah, you take a test with the school, and then once you pass the test for the school, you're eligible to take the state test.
Okay, and a lot of people are doing it these days.
Oh,
and,
we're
I
full.
noticed even during rough times regarding the housing market, there real estate agents were out there. I mean, obviously, you still need to do your job. You still need to sell houses, right? So
Yep. Actually, the school's been kind of a leading indicator for the future of real estate. Right now, our school is full. We can't take any more people.
that's
so
a good sign.
that tells me that 6 months to a year down the road,
Oh yeah,
the market will be healthy.
you could bet on that. We talked a lot about houses in general, but earlier in the show you used the word condos. That always kind of interests me. How does it differ from the regular housing market?
Well, condominiums are a separate category that we classify, and they're very popular with first-time buyers
Yes.
and empty nesters.
Right.
who
The
want-
single people,
Yep.
guys who don't feel like mowing the lawn or shoveling the walk when it snows.
That's right. You're one of them.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But are they still popular?
Oh, yeah. In fact, let me look at my numbers here. Last year, there was an 11% increase in the number of condo sales, and the median sale price went up 5.52%. So that shows improvement in that particular category.
Obviously, there are pros and cons to it. It's not for everybody.
No, but it's great for first-time buyers because the prices are lower.
Right.
It's a way to get into the market, stay a few years, sell your condo, and move to a single-family home.
Resale might not be as good as if you're selling your home because the value of that usually goes up, right?
Depends on the market.
Yeah, you're right. It depends on where you're at.
Yeah, and you know what's funny? You can talk about the national market. You can talk about the Connecticut market. If you go to our website on easternctrealtors.com on the Learn page, there's a link to market statistics, and we have town histories for each year for the different categories of properties. So you can look at how values have changed in a particular town. But you can even go further and say, what about my neighborhood?
Right, right.
Because all real estate is local.
Right. Okay, so we touched on homes and condos. That all falls under the umbrella of residential. But another area is commercial. Let's talk about commercial.
That's an interesting topic. We have a very active commercial committee. We invite speakers to the committee meetings and also invite others that are interested from ECAR to come to the meetings. For example, at the end of the month, we're having the Mayor Passero from New London talk about the revitalization of New London. We had a huge variety of topics.
It's tough. The mill rate is like double of the next town over. So,
Yeah. The problem with commercial is that commercial brokers tend to act like realtors used to act in the 1950s. They tend to keep their listings to themselves. They don't get put in the MLS.
before we run out of time, I just want to briefly spend a moment on the types of financing, because I think that's something people, if they decided in their mind, I've been thinking about it, or yes, I'm ready, I want to buy a home, but how do you finance it?
Okay, again,
Market.
talk to a mortgage lender.
Right.
They'll qualify you and they'll suggest different products. First-time buyers might want to look at CHFA, Connecticut Housing Finance Agency, or FHA, Federal Housing Administration loans, because they're both very low down payment loans, and frequently first-time buyers don't have a lot of cash to work with because you have the down payment plus closing costs that you have to fund.
I think we learned a lot today. Answer to me, yes or no, is this a good time to buy a home?
Absolutely a great time to buy a home.
Of course.
Low interest rates. I mean,
Yeah.
when I started in 1974, the rates were 6%.
Yeah.
What can you buy today for less than you paid in 1974?
Yeah. I mean, gas prices are sneaking down a little bit, but not going back to 74, that's for sure.
That's for sure.
John Bolduc, the Chief Executive Officer for Eastern Connecticut Association of Realtors. We did learn a lot today. Thank you for being on the show. Give the website out one more time.
EasternCTRealtors.com.
You can see this show and many others on our YouTube sites. Until next time, I'm Sean Murphy. This is For the Record. Take care.